What is up everyone, welcome to my Baal, also known as the Raiden Shogun build and guide video. I will be going over all that you need to know about her, such as talents, artifacts, weapons, teams, and also a showcase of putting that information into action. So Baal is quite a unique character. She has a lot to offer for your teams, and she's an amazing unit overall. Baal can be used in multiple ways. Baal can be a pretty good main DPS and a really good support or sub DPS all in one. She can deal good electro damage, buff your team's damage while also generating a large amount of energy for your team. She's a well-balanced character, but her usability could potentially be a limiting factor due to her being electro. Elemental reactions surrounding electro aren't the strongest, so do keep that in mind. Also, she is a little bit more on the complicated side when it comes to understanding her kit, but regardless of that, Baal still has really good capabilities in nearly all roles. And in my personal opinion, I think she's overall amazing, and I love playing with her. I do consider her to be quite powerful while also being incredibly fun. With that being said, without further ado, let's hop right into the video. So the first section I want to talk about are her talents, and I will try to explain her kit as simplified as I can, because the way it's described when you read her abilities is a little hard to understand. So first, I want to talk about how Baal works. Baal thrives off of using your entire team's bursts whenever possible. She sort of plays a game of give and take, and what I mean by that is she has an ability called Chakra Desiderata. I probably butchered that, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but anyways, first of all, I will show you how to know when it's activated. When you use someone else's burst, you will get this purple ring around you which stays on even when you switch characters. And what this ability does is that whenever you use your other character's bursts, you gain a resolve stack based on the energy cost of said bursts. Baal's own burst doesn't count towards these stacks. Anyhow, eventually what you want to do with this is to use your other character's burst before using Baal's, because the other burst will fuel Baal's damage greatly. Another way to fuel resolve stacks is by generating energy particles through your other team members. This feature comes from her passive ability called Wishes Unnumbered, and here's the refund portion of Baal's kit. After fueling the damage for Baal's burst with your other characters, when you unleash Baal's burst, she will start dealing great damage while regenerating energy for your entire team. This portion of her kit mainly revolves around Baal's burst and other bursts. Now for the more math side of this, the maximum stacks you can get is 60. However, there's not really a way to get to that number yet, simply because there aren't any bursts available at the time that has a high enough burst cost to maximize the stacks for Baal. In a more optimal rotation, you can get near 45 to 56 stacks, which is decent as of now. Moving on to her elemental skill. When you activate it, you will get the Eye of Stormy Judgment, which is an off-field coordinated AoE electro ability. You can proc elemental reactions through this move even off-field. The Eye can initiate a coordinated attack every 0.9 seconds, so do keep that in mind. Now, this ability also has a really great support type passive attached to it. When the Eye is activated, your characters will have their burst damage increased based on the energy costs of the burst. So this ability offers a pretty great overall damage boost, and in terms of using this ability, I recommend activating the Eye before gaining the stacks for her burst. So the way I recommend using Baal is to activate the Eye, then start to use your other character's burst along with their elemental skills to get even more stacks, and then finally use Baal's burst and repeat. On a quick side note, when you activate the Eye of Stormy Judgment, it will blend in with her other ability, the Chakra Desiderata, except there will be an eyeball on top of the circle. So that's how you know when both things are activated. For her burst, what happens is her pole arm now becomes a sword, and you will continuously deal electro damage through her normal, charged, and plunge attacks. Do note that your normal attack while in this state counts as burst damage, so leveling up your normal attacks really has no effect on your damage overall. I wish I would have realized that before leveling mine up, however, it's fine I guess, but anyways, also while in this state, as I've said previously, you do recharge a lot of energy for your entire team, which is really handy and very useful. So all this being said, the priority level would be the burst, then your elemental skill, and her normal attacks, which potentially you don't need to ever level up. And now, just to talk a little of her passives, she has one that's called the Wishes Unnumbered, and it's a skill that's the skill that gains resolve stacks from the energy particles your other team members generate, which further increases Baal's burst damage. And her other passive, the Enlightened one, grants you a 0.6% energy restoration for her burst and a 0.4% electro damage increase for every percent of energy recharge you have above 100%. So to simplify that, if you are at 200% energy recharge, you will have a 40% electro damage increase and a 60% extra energy restoration from her burst. So this covers all you need to know of Baal as simply as I possibly could have done, and now it's time to move on to her artifacts. So for the artifact set, the one that I personally recommend is the Emblem of Severed Fate set, which grants you a 20% energy recharge with the 2-piece, and you get 25% extra burst damage with the 4-piece, but a total of 75% burst damage increase is possible if you have the right amount of energy recharge. To get a 75% burst damage increase, you need to have about 300% energy recharge, however, it's not totally necessary. So once again, keep in mind that Baal's burst normal attacks are considered burst damage, so to maximize her potential, this artifact set is the way to go. While a 2-piece Emblem and a 2-piece Thundering Fury could work, I don't recommend it over a full set of the Emblem artifacts. That being said, the substats to look out for on your artifact would be crit rate, crit damage, and energy recharge. A good crit rate and crit damage ratio could be somewhat harder to achieve on Baal since her kit doesn't really provide any increases to those stats. Anyways, moving on for the main stats, this is where it could get a little tricky. For the Sands, you could go with attack percent or energy recharge, and this ties into the weapon that you'd be using on her. But even so, sometimes it could be tricky to decide which one to go for. While she scales off of attack, having a very high energy recharge can fuel her burst support abilities and give you a high electro damage percent bonus. So to decide what main stat to go for, it depends on your weapon, artifact substats, and also your preference overall. If my take is that if you have a decently high energy recharge percentage on her, meaning above 200% without an energy recharge stance, you could benefit more from an attack percentage main stat, but the rule of thumb is to go the opposite of the weapon you're using. For the Goblet, you could either go with an attack percent bonus or an electro percent bonus. Personally, I would go for the attack percentage bonus on the Goblet since you already get a large amount of electro bonus through her energy recharge percentage, so therefore you could start experiencing a lack of damage due to that. Now, as for the Crown, I'd recommend crit rate or crit damage depending on what you need more. So this covers her artifacts, but Baal can get more complicated once we go to the weapon section. Once I cover the weapon section, I'll go into some more theory-based recommendations, which include some math calculations, but this mainly revolves around a specific weapon. So now we're on the weapon section, and as a whole, Baal actually has some great weapon options in the 5-star and 4-star listings. Starting off with her 4 stars. I think the Catch is the best 4-star weapon to use on her since it gives you high energy recharge of up to 45.9% on the main stat, while the passives can give you a 16% increased burst damage and a 6% increase of burst crit rate at Refinement 1, and at Refinement 5, the burst damage increases to 32%, while the crit rate changes to 12%. The Catch weirdly seems like it was made for Baal according to the abilities this weapon has to offer. This weapon is a free-to-play option and everyone will be able to get it, and if you are planning to get Baal or if you already have her, I recommend you to get this since this is probably her best 4-star option. I don't want to guarantee that statement 100% simply because I don't own it yet, however it does seem to be the case. Other 4-star options would be the Favonius Lance and the Prototype Star Glitter due to the energy recharge main stat, but the passives aren't anywhere near as useful as the Catch on Baal, and since the Catch is also accessible to everyone, you could use these 2 weapons until you're able to get your hands on the Catch. The Blackcliff Polearm or Deathmatch could be used as well, but only for the crit rate and crit damage stats if you're needing it heavily. I cannot seem to recommend any other 4-star polearm, so it is a somewhat limited roster. However, the Catch in theory is so good on her that I would deem Baal to be free-to-play friendly because the Catch is a free-to-play friendly weapon. So onto the 5 stars. All 5-star polearms can be used on Baal, with her absolute best in slot weapon being the new Engulfing Lightning polearm. This weapon was made for her, and this is the weapon that offers you some different build options or more like theory crafting capabilities because of the passive, which I will get into after I talk about the other weapons. The Skyward Spine is also an amazing 5-star weapon option. It can offer you up to a 36.8% energy recharge main stat, and also giving you an 8% crit rate increase through the passives. Primordial Jade Spear and Staff of Homa are also viable options, mainly for the crit rate and crit damage stat increase respectively, and they just provide a large overall damage increase capabilities. The Vortex Vanquisher could be used on Baal for the attack percent main stat, however I don't own it, and just based on my theory, I think the catch is still better than this weapon, even though it's a 5-star. This has covered the weapons, and I'm going to talk about a specific build if you own Engulfing Lightning. So about the Engulfing Lightning, in theory, because it has a very interesting passive ability, it could give you some more wiggle room when building your Baal. If you don't have this weapon or don't plan on getting it, you can skip over this since it won't really apply to you. So, her passive on this weapon is saying that your attack is increased by 28% of energy recharge over the base 100% energy recharge. You can get a maximum of 80% attack increase. This is at Refinement 1. At higher refinements, this is even higher. So in a simple manner, for every percent of energy recharge over 100%, you get a 0.28% attack increase. To get all the way up to 80% attack increase, you need to have about 285 to 286% of energy recharge over 100%. So in total, an energy recharge percent of 385 to 386 is needed to get up to that 80% attack increase. While it could be somewhat hardish to achieve that high of a number, it is possible with the right artifact substats, but I really wouldn't sweat it too much, because with this weapon and ER sands and the artifact set, you can easily obtain 300% at least with an additional 30% from the other passive of the weapon. With the passive activated, let's say we have at least 330% energy recharge, we are already getting roughly a 64 to 65% attack bonus, which will already outperform having an attack percent sands piece. So with this weapon, my artifact recommendation would be the ER sands, attack percent goblet, and crit rate or crit damage crown. And with these stats, you would be looking at 80% electro damage bonus because of her passive, an attack increase of at least 110%, and an energy recharge of 300% or above depending on artifact substats. So we have now made it into the team section. I will show some teams where she'd be fulfilling the role of being a main DPS, and also teams where she acts as a battery support / sub DPS. To start things off, I want to mention a general rule of thumb. As I have explained earlier in the video, Baal thrives off of other high burst cost characters. So any character who has a burst cost of 80 will generate the most damage possible for Baal at this time. However, creating good and balanced teams where everyone has a burst cost of 80 isn't really possible, so usually you'd be stuck with 2 characters with a burst of at least 80 instead of 3 characters. On a quick side note, Beidou has poor synergy with Baal because Baal's normal attacks while in her burst state are considered burst damage. So Beidou's off-field burst won't work with Baal, which is quite a bummer because I was hoping that they would work well together. But anyways, the first team where Baal would be considered your main damage dealer would be Baal, Zhangling, Xingqiu, and Bennett. This team will create a lot of elemental reactions and can generate a lot of energy due to Baal's burst, and this team actually works really well. The reason I like this team is that both Zhangling and Xingqiu have a burst cost of 80, and their bursts are also known to create a lot of elemental reactions. And of course, Bennett will give us the Pyro Resonance along with his amazing burst support capabilities. Some other supporting characters to consider with high energy cost would be Sayu, Sucrose, and Diona. Baal, most importantly, should fill a role of being a battery while offering some good DPS through her burst and also increasing other burst damages. So this is an example of a team where I really like to use, but this is more of a main DPS style Baal play. Now moving on to Baal's sub DPS / support setups, one possible option would be Eula, Baal, Bennett, and Zhongli. Another example could be like Yoimiya, Baal, Xingqiu, Bennett, and other combinations could work too. These are all just some examples. I also like to pair Baal with an animal character such as Kazuha, Venti, or Sucrose, especially if they're using a 4-piece Viridescent, because that way you will get some elemental resistance decrease on your enemies and you can deal even more damage with your Baal. And also, when you combine an animal user such as the ones I've mentioned with Baal, your energy recharge or like energy particle regeneration could be increased even further. So I really like to combine that, and like a quick example of that would be, let's see, like the ones I have mentioned, like Eula, Yoimiya, and then like replace one of the other supporters with an animal user, and that would work out really well. But through and through, Baal is overall very versatile and can be used in even more setups if you wish. These are just some examples that I quickly come up with and that I have tested, but I feel like there are even more options I'm missing but I haven't figured out. So if you know any more, let me know down below, and that so that we can help out everyone else. On a quick side note, my own Baal isn't at her highest capability. I was not able to optimize her artifacts nor her weapon yet, so my damage could be considerably lower than maybe other Baal damage showcases you have seen. However, I think you can still get an idea of her overall damage and her support abilities. Now that we have covered this, we can move on to the showcase. So Baal overall is a great character and could be a great addition to your team. Even though she wasn't fully leveled up yet, I could still deal some really good damage as a main and sub/support, and is somewhat comparable to like a Tartaglia. I think she could have a lot more to offer than what I could showcase, because I have seen some other damage showcases just scrolling on Twitter, and she could be very hard hitting, so I just wasn't able to do that as of now. Anyhow, I hope this video was able to help some of you out, and I also hope you guys enjoy building and using your Baal. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up and also hit that subscribe button and notification bell so that I know if you'd like to see more videos like this. I also want to know how you guys are enjoying your Baal, or if you feel like I have missed anything, let me know down below. And without further ado, I just want to say thank you all for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next one. See ya. OXEVO is out.